Hey guys, Felipe here. So in this video, I'm just going to basically continue on the command line training I did a while back. So this is just a continuation of that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it, get into the goodness, right? So command line training, of course, continued. Basically just going to go over some commands that you can input into a terminal, and these are usually shared within a lot of different operating systems, right? Anywhere from Linux to Unix, so forth. So here we have WC, word count. This command computes the number of lines, words, and bytes in a file, such as WC file name, notes.txt in this example. And to see each file independently, you can use different options, arguments that start with a dash or dash dash followed by a letter or word. Those are basically arguments or flags. Can read files and standard input. Word count lets you write to the terminal and just basically control D to exit that. And then you can use combinations, right? You can use it with pipe, which I'll talk about in a little bit, such as a certain command, pipe that into word count dash L, which counts the number of lines from standard input and prints the results. So yeah, let's play around with this. I'm just gonna switch to the terminal here, and then let's play around with this. So just gonna change over here. Um, I'm gonna make a directory for commands. I'm gonna cd that directory, and I'm gonna touch a file called notes.txt. So I'm just gonna create that file. And then I'm just gonna put stuff in this file. Uh, hello, hola, mundo. So just put stuffs in this file, and then just simple note word count, note.txt, and then it gives you all that information, right? So let's move along here and see what we have next, right? So that's word count. Now we have the man command. You can pull up documentation at any time in your shell by typing man foo for any command foo. For example, to read up on all the options, you can give the word command use man WC the command, and then to just type A or Q to exit back into the shell. Let's play around with this one really quickly. I'm just going to change back to the command line, and I'm going to do man word count. Boom. It's just basically documentation on anything you can do with this command, like other options and flags and things you can add on to it. And you can do this for any existing command. Pretty cool stuff. I actually use TLDR because it gives you like a little short um, information on this command that is easier to read, but that's kind of the one I like to use. But man's really good and kind of goes into detail with everything that that particular command has that you might, um, want to know about. All right, head is a program that by default will print out the first 10 lines from a file. You just could do something like head note.txt, and then you can specify how many lines to print with the dash n flag, such as dash n5 notes.txt. Basically would print out the first 5 lines. You can change the number to whatever amount of lines you want to print. The head command prints the first part of a file. If the file isn't given, head reads from standard input. So let's play around with this one right now. So go over here, um, add some more stuff to note.txt. Uh, hey there, guys. Notes.txt, right? So head, I don't know, dash N1, and that should just print the first line, which is Hola Mundo. So as of now, note.txt has 2 lines. So I just specified, hey, print me the first line of the notes.txt file. So that's basically what the head command does. Now tail is the opposite of the head command. It prints by default the last 5 lines of a file. So let's go ahead and play around with this one. It has the same similar flag, the dash n, which you can specify the amount of lines from that file you want to print. So I'm just going to do tail dash n1 notes.txt, boom, and it prints the last line of that file. Pretty simple stuff, but pretty useful when you need to do specific things, right? Type it in redirect, basically write to a file using the greater than character. You can write output of a command to a file, for example, to make a new file, greeting.txt with the content Hola Mundo. We can do echo Hola Mundo, use the greater than sign, and greetings.txt. Greeting.txt doesn't exist, so we'll create it. It basically output redirect if you want to save a file, echo Hola Mundo greater than hello.txt. So let's play around with this. And then you kind of just seen me use it a little bit in terms of the redirects with the 2 greater than signs. So let me just go back here to the terminal. So it's echo, which echo command just spits out whatever you give it, either to the terminal or to the file. It's kind of like an echo, right? So I'm just going to do echo Hola Mundo, and then greetings.txt, and it creates it if the file doesn't exist, right? So I misspelled that, but you can kind of see there that it basically works the way it as expected, right? So further along, append to a file, kind of what I did prior to this, or just now, right? One greater than redirect standard output to a file. A single greater than sign or symbol overwrites a file with new content. So the single one overwrites the file with whatever new content you're going to put into it. If it already exists. If it doesn't exist, it will create the file. There is a double greater than, which is 2 greater than symbols operator that appends to the end of a file if it already exists. So if you're going to continuously add things to the file, that's the one to use, such as echo wow greater than cool.txt. That would create the file if it doesn't exist with the content wow. And then you can literally put whatever you want utilizing this. So, okay, I switch over here and echo cool, 2 greater than signs into cool.txt. And then we can cat just allows you to see what's inside of a file in terminal, and then boom, there you go. It actually created the file because it didn't exist, and it added the cool characters into the file. Pretty simple stuff. So let's move along here and see what's next. Basically, 2 greater thans appends. If you put 2 greater than symbols side by side, then it will add the standard output from whatever you are piping into the file. And then this is kind of more of what I was just doing, echo whatever 2 greater than symbols into hello.txt. If the file doesn't exist, so create it, cat hello.txt, echo whatevs, and then that's just appending again. So it's going to add it to the next line or to the last line of hello.txt. So I'll skip that. This is pretty cool stuff. Subshell commands, subshells, right? Subshells, basically command arguments, compose different kinds of operations. You can combine commands. Here we basically have what's within the parentheses is the subshell. And then anything else is basically just more commands, right? So between the parentheses is the subshell. The next part basically overwrites a different file that's not called hello.txt and then moves the content hello.txt underscore to hello.txt. So just again, anything within parentheses is a subshell. That's just how it works. This has to do with how the operating system works. It's generally cheaper to put things in the end of a file than at the beginning, because if you put something at the beginning, you have to basically shift everything, right? Whereas the way computers or operating systems works, it tends to, by default, put things basically at the end. The operating system will allocate a new, but if you put things in the end, the operating system will allocate a new block or write to an existing block because things are done in blocks, right? Kind of like a link structure internally is what's going on. Read from file, it's just basically the less than sign or symbol. You can read from a file into standard input of a program with the less than symbol. Remember that if word count doesn't have an argument, it will read from standard input. We can load a file into word count with the less than symbol instead, such as word count -c, which -c is the flag for characters, less than notes.txt. It will write the contents of the notes.txt into the standard input of the word count command. Less than input redirect, which is the less than symbol again. The input redirects takes the content of a file and sort of like takes it into another file. So you can do that for one file to another, basically. Pretty simple stuff. I'm just gonna basically switch over here to terminal, play around with it. WC-C, less than symbol, notes.txt, and boom, it's just gonna spit out basically the amount of characters inside of this notes.txt file, right? All right, let's see what's next. Pipes. Pipes is super cool. The last but most important of the redirects is the pipe operator, which is that that little symbol on top of the enter key or return key, depending on what computer you have. With pipe, you can feed the output of one program to the input of the next, kind of like chaining programs together. For example, the ls-1 command will list a file's contents to standard output, right? The wc-l command, meanwhile counts the number of lines. Pipe is powerful in Unix because it means you can compose programs, basically chain programs. So you can make a bigger program on the fly that combines the functionality of two simpler or smaller programs to do something you want to do. So you can get really creative with pipes. What is nice about pipes is that you can inspect the data that's going into one program basically by just running it individually and then ultimately piping it together, right, to create a bigger program. So you can read output to make sure it makes sense and then pipe it into another program to make sure it works. You can chain as many programs as you want, basically, with pipe. For example, here, ls-1 star, which is a wildcard, .txt just means any file that ends with the extension .txt on your system or in your directory. Pipe wc-l, which is going to spit out the number of lines that file or those files have, and then pipe that into WC-C, which is basically going to give you all the characters within all those files that have the extension .txt. So basically, the nice thing about pipes in Unix is that you can always test what every piece does in isolation, basically using echo for each piece of the program, separated by pipes, right? Or pipelines, before building something really big and complicated. Again, you can get really creative with this stuff, which is really cool. Combinations, basically a number of files and directories. You can do something like ls-1 and pipe that wc-l, how many text files in the current directory, and that is using the star wildcard. So basically ls-1 star.txt, which means match anything in the directory in the current folder or that matches or has the extensions of .txt. Pipe that into word count -1 -l, sorry, and then it's going to print the number of lines, right? So play around with this one. Let me just switch over here, go over here, and let me change the directory for this. Let's see what I have here. CD, some desktop, or CD personal. So it's here. Okay, CD, complete ls, clear. So it's ls-1, use the pipe symbol, wc-l, boom. And I made a typo there. It's -l. And this just tells me there's 4 directories in here, and you can see here basically 1, 2, 3, 4 directories, right? So that's how that works. Let's just go back here. Boom. All right, let's see what we got going on next. So that's basically pipes, curl and sed. So basically with curl, you can fetch a URL basically from a website. So we can fetch an ebook, for example, and count the number of lines of occurrences of a word in the book, case sensitive, right? Which that is regular expressions, right? So the command here is curl-s, and then feed it a URL, use the pipe, and then feed that into the sed command -r, which -r stands for recursive, and then basically a regular expression, s //s plus // n, which is new line of /g for global, pipe again into grep -i, which -i is the case insensitive flag, so it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. And then in that case, whatever word you're searching for, pipe that again to word count, and with the flag L for the number of lines. Then we can pipe grep, basically can pipe grep it to the wc-l command to know how many lines, how many times in the ebook the word to search appears. So again, curl, basically you can feed it a URL, right? And then you can do some interesting things with that. So what the curl command does, is it loads the URL and prints the content to standard output of whatever URL you provide it. Literally, it can be any URL. By default, the curl command prints a progress bar that can get in your way. So use the -s flag to remove the progress bar. So curl-s, and then whatever URL you want to feed it. You can get a compressed file, so you'll need to use gunzip on the file to unzip it. Gunzip is a command basically to unzip zip commands, zip files, kind of like tar, the tar command, similar to that one. Reset's a simple command. It basically resets your terminal in the case that you're having that is not working for whatever reason. You can use the reset command. Gunzip, kind of I was just talking about it, would read from standard input. Gunzip compress data, and it will write uncompressed data to standard output. So you'll feed it a zip file, and then it will spit out an unzipped file, right? And then you can just do that with curl-s, whatever URL that is feeding you or giving you a zip file, pipe that using the pipe operator into the gunzip command, and it would bring in the file and unzip it at the same time. Sed basically replaces all white spaces with new lines. So if there is something like a space, white spaces are just spaces in a computer when you're text, that's what they're called. It's going to turn that into a new line. So sed basically with this regular expression, it's going to do that, right? Convert all the white spaces tabs, which are tabs, spaces, and new lines, into new lines. This means that each word gets its own line. For example, echo foobar, pipe that into sed with the regular expression, and it's going to give you that. Awesome, cool. So that's pretty much it for the part 2. So with that, I'll leave you guys with a super cool quote that I recently came across. So basically is by Edsger Dijkstra, which I believe he's the creator of the Dijkstra algorithm. So the question of whether machines can think is about as relevant as the question of whether submarines can swim. Very interesting quote. Cool. So with that being said, appreciate you guys for joining me. If I provided any value and you'd like to hear more, feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one.